Hey YouTube, it's Jaden coming at you with Zane, and Glendon's finally back. He was gone last week. He'll explain later. We got a lot to get into, so we're just going to jump straight into it. As you remember, last week we told you we were going to talk a little bit more about Disney, and I took a tag out of one of my YouTube person on YouTube that I like to watch their videos, and wrote down some of the videos she talked about, and I figured we'd do the same thing. First off, few quick announcements. Set 13 sneak peek will be here next week. I'm going to probably videotape at least my opening, so you can check that out. I have 3 quotes of the day, actually, because I couldn't pick it between these 3.
I don't blame you there.
The best revenge is massive success. Frank Sinatra.
Blue eyes.
It's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. Abraham Lincoln. And you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, Wayne Gretzky.
Absolutely.
So all of them say pretty much the same thing. Just wanted to share those with you. All right, so let's get into the Disney discussion right now. So what I did is I went to Google and I found a reputable website, and I found whatculture.com, and it was ranking the 52 animated classic Disney films that have been dignified as classics from worst to the best. And I just kind of went through and picked out ones that I thought everyone has seen. So anyway, let's just jump into it. We're going to jump straight to number 42 in a movie that was released in 2008 called Bolt.
I never watched that.
Have you seen Bolt?
Yes, I have.
Now, the only problem I have with this movie is that John Travolta does the voice of Bolt. I hate John Travolta.
I like him in Grease.
He murdered his son. Well, he didn't do it, but he certainly didn't help the situation, and he knew what he was doing. I don't care what he says. But Bolt's do you agree that do you think this is classified as a classic?
Not really.
I was surprised this was on the list. Now, granted, this was on the list, but Frozen wasn't. I found that really weird. But I'm guessing they weren't including Frozen since it was just out.
Yeah.
Would be my best guess.
That's the only reason I can see.
But anyway, we're jumping now to the 1960s. 1963 at number 36, we have Sword in the Stone.
One of my favorite Disney movies.
I think I've seen that once.
That's
really
easy, one of the most classics of all time.
Yeah.
Now, when was the first time you saw this movie that you can remember seeing it?
Oh, that was really little. I cannot remember.
I didn't see it on TV. My mom had recorded it on an old VCR when you had to record with a VCR and keep it on that channel.
Honestly, I preferred that.
That's how I watched it, and she taped it between 2 episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger. So, I mean, that's how I really enjoyed The Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
It goes into the future.
Yep.
Comes back and all the Jamaican outfits.
Yes, it's certainly, and you know what's funny is in these older Disney movies in the 60s, there are things in these movies that would not fly nowadays.
Yes, definitely.
Like that Jamaican thing at the very end that you just said, that would not fly.
No.
Yeah.
That was very
Shoot, I just watched a Mickey Mouse cartoon the other day where it was like the tailor and something, and it's like he's like this little sewer or whatever and stuff, and then he's like swatting flies, and he kills 7 of them at one time, and somebody's like, "Hey, has anybody here around here killed a giant?" And then he comes out busting through the window, he says, "I killed 7 of them," and they're like, seven. They tell the king, and now he has to kill a giant. But when he goes to meet the giant, he hides a hay bale, and then the giant takes like this giant piece of like a blanket or something, and then wraps up the hay in it and smokes like a cigarette. And Mickey's in there choking on it and stuff too. And it's like, definitely not going to happen nowadays.
Yeah. While we also go through these movies, guys, we're going to talk about some of the key songs that were in it too, like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
You're doing Disney. This was Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers did something
Okay.
really bad with
We're now Sword in the Stone was ranked at 36.
horrible.
We're now jumping to number 33. This movie was released in 2002. It was called Lilo and Stitch.
I love that movie. Yeah.
Lilo and Stitch. I remember seeing this in the movie theaters with my mom when I was, I guess not little. I was around 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
Really liked the movie. I think everyone before they hit puberty had their Stitch voice.
Yeah, pretty much.
It also is what made Elvis popular again.
Yeah, which is really good. I mean,
One of the greatest musicians of all time.
I think everybody should get a taste of the king, of course.
But this also argues. Do you think
Yep, sure does.
Disney should stop doing their sequel bit?
Depends on the movie.
Because they've
Pretty
made
much,
2 sequels to Stitch.
Yeah.
Now, see, my whole thing on sequels in Disney, I think this might be one of our questions actually, but
Okay.
they say, Toy Story.
Great. That's the exception.
That is the greatest. It wasn't Disney. It was Pixar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before it was Disney, so they can't put it on this list. But one of the best animated movies of its time. Toy Story 2. It was very, very scary because they didn't know if it was going to work, and it matched Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
The original. Toy Story 3. You should have stopped. You got greedy. I didn't like it.
It didn't give me the full feel of the other movies, but I did enjoy the ending and stuff about it. It was
a way to tie it off,
Yeah.
but the series was fine the way it was, in my opinion. All right, we're now jumping down to number 32, One Below Lilo and Stitch, a movie that was released in 1988 called Oliver and Company.
Oh yes.
Now,
That's actually on my little list too.
God, I love that
I
movie.
love Oliver and Company.
I do too.
Billy Joel's
Yeah.
Why Should I Worry? That's still
That's on
one
it.
of the best songs. Didn't even scare me. Ignore Jason. But easily one of the best Disney songs. And Billy Joel had such an amazing voice.
Yes, he did.
It still does. I don't know why I say it did. I love that movie because I think whoever they got to play, what was the main dog's name?
Roger, I think.
No, not Roger.
Which dog?
The main dog that
was
sang.
Oliver.
No, that was the
Billy
cat.
Joel's.
That was the cat.
Yeah. Billy Joel's character.
I cannot think of his name, and I've seen that movie I don't know how many times. Oscar. No, wait. Wasn't it Oscar?
No, Oscar I think is the hobo.
That's right.
I'll look it up. You guys carry
All right,
on.
okay,
Okay.
guys, we'll come back to that in a minute. But Oliver and Company, it comes in at number 32.
It's a
it
really
made a
good
lot of money. If you have not seen it, it's worth the watch.
Oh yeah.
And it's on Netflix now.
And it's really catchy too.
Number 30, coming in at a movie that was released in '95, Pocahontas. I wouldn't have felt right if I hadn't have put this on this list
Yeah,
because
it is really a classic.
it is classic. Because let's face it, the woman who sings "All the Colors of the Wind,"
Yeah.
her voice is magical.
It is pretty good.
She did it on Broadway in the production of Pocahontas, which I thought was brilliant. She won 2 Emmys for it.
Close. It's not Roger. It's Dodger.
Dodger. Okay,
Okay.
Dodger. That was the dog in Oliver and Company, the
I
main
love
dog.
that.
Okay, but anyway, Pocahontas. There was also a lot of things in that movie that wouldn't fly either because you can't call an Indian a savage anymore.
Yeah.
They take it as a very big insult. That's no.
You're not supposed to do it.
But let's face it, Disney. If you look at Walt Disney as a person, he really wasn't scared to speak his mind,
No, especially not in like Peter Pan.
which we
What
will
makes
get
the
to
red man
later.
red? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Coming in at number 29, right below Pocahontas, a movie that was released in 2003, Brother Bear.
Now see, I've heard so many good things about it.
Brother Bear.
Didn't like it?
I liked it. The second one hurt it.
did it?
This was a case where you should have stopped. To your hand, Christian. Inside joke. But anyway, Brother Bear it teaches you you should never act on impulse. That's
That's a good lesson.
the main character Kenai, his brother is killed inadvertently by a bear, and he blames the bear even though the bear technically didn't do it. So he hunts down this bear, kills it. He gets transformed into a bear by his brother, who became they call it a spirit, so they don't offend religious communities. And when he's turned into a bear, he is told by their shaman, this is basically your punishment. If you want to know why, you need to go talk to your brother on this mountain. Well, on the way there, he runs into a little bear cub, and
He friends it.
and the bear cub says, I got separated from my mom. So the whole time you're thinking, oh, okay. So you're thinking he's trying to help this cub find his mother. And at the very tail end of the movie, Kenai finds out that the bear he killed was this cub's mother.
Oh.
And he ends up having to tell the cub I was that human that killed. But in the end, the little cub forgives him. The mother of the cub forgives him, and the Kenai ends up staying a bear to pay the little bear back and watches over him. It is a very good story.
That's interesting.
It's on Netflix too, if you have that.
Yeah, I got Netflix.
Amazing movie. It is kind of cheesy in parts, but hey, it's Disney.
You gotta live with that.
Number 28, a movie that definitely belongs, I think, closer into the top 15. A movie that was produced in '97 called Hercules.
Everybody loves Hercules.
The music in this one was excellent. What was the song that Hercules sang? I'm on my way. No, that's
I will find
Brother
my
Bear.
way.
I will find my way.
I will find my way.
Yeah, that guy. Didn't he win an Oscar for that or an Emmy
It
or
wouldn't
something?
shock me in the least. It was beautiful.
Don't take anything mythology-wise from the movie Hercules.
Yeah, do not take that all seriously at all.
The way they portrayed Hercules is
Completely different.
Dead. Well, it's Disney.
Well, yeah.
If they portrayed Hercules as Hercules,
Pretty much what they do to any story is
They-
give you
they
an
friendly it up.
Yeah, friendly it up and give it an entertaining way for you to when you're older. Hey, I want to find out what's really behind the story. You check it out, it's like,
oh,
ooh. Well, I'm glad I like the Disney version too.
yeah. Okay, moving on to number 27, a movie that was produced in 1967, and it was the last movie that Walt Disney got to see.
As we
It
mentioned
was-
last week, Jungle Book.
Jungle Book. I remember watching this so much when I loved Caw. I thought he was
Oh my
hilarious.
god, yes.
I loved his eyes.
Oh, the snake.
I loved Shere Khan.
Share a call.
He had that perfect deep Austrian accent.
Yeah.
And you can't forget also.
Bulgaria.
Yeah, Bulgaria. You also can't forget the song that won, I think, an award, "The Bare Necessities."
That is an amazing song.
It
One of
It's-
the greatest song in an animated movie.
for that year.
I approve of that.
It's literally it's so simple. It's a drum, and whoever sings it, singing it, and you have like a little bit of a piano and a little jazzy tune in the background. But so good.
It's a really good movie in general.
Yep. Coming in at number 25, another good movie produced in 1973 called Robin Hood.
Ah, yes. Which
I loved Robin Hood. You've never seen the animated Robin Hood?
No. Well, I've seen like
The animal one.
It's
30
the
minutes.
animal one because it's Disney.
Yeah, it's we're talking
I've
classic
seen
Disney
like
here.
30 minutes of it.
I really liked it.
It was very dark.
They,
Oh god, it was so dark.
It was very dark for the time, but you also got to remember this was the 70s. There was not much, there was not really a FCC at that time. It was just really understood that you can't say on national television.
and really Disney doesn't have that much of a purpose to do so.
But if you really go, there's a channel someone created. It's called Things You Don't Notice in Movies, and he
Oh,
has
I need
this
to check
thing
that out
called
now.
he calls it Things That Will Ruin Disney for You. There's a lot of perverted things on
Oh
there.
yeah.
Things that you see on national television in general. The Animaniacs
Yes.
had a scene where Wacko was like, "We need to find Prince." Dot said, "I found him, and it's Prince. You know, the artist." And he goes, "No, fingerprints." And Prince smiles, and she goes, "Nah."
Yeah, see, if you're a grown-up watching that, you'll be like, a kid, you'll be like, whoo!
Yeah, some things just go way over.
All right, guys, I'm cutting it a little earlier than I normally do, but we're gonna cut it over to part 2, so we don't have to fuse these movies together. So anyway, guys, be sure to check out part 2, where we will reveal number 24 on their list.